I'm Brother Faheem, and you are now rocking with the Lead with Logic podcast. You know the vibes. Peace, and welcome back to another episode of the Lead with Logic podcast. So grateful for everybody coming back and tuning in. Y'all come on in, relax your mind, let your conscience be free. There's always so much going on in the world. This week is Thanksgiving, or what we call it is Family Day celebration, right? Family Day celebration. So wherever you are in the world, in the United States, hopefully the weather is nice and enjoyable and comfortable, and you can observe it with your family. And don't eat too much turkey because you are what you eat. But man, things going on in the world constantly, 24/7. The universe does not stop. The earth is always rotating. Something that came up that I saw, a couple of issues that everybody's dealing with. And I think that they are not looking at the deeper implications in these issues. So we have Will Smith and Dwayne Martin have been accused, or it's alleged that they are in a homosexual, same-sex, same-loving relationship. We also have Keke Palmer and Darius Jackson and their domestic violence issues. And lastly, Mr. Joe Smith and his wife, I think it's Keisha Chavis is her name. They're dealing with financial issues that seem to be causing their relationship some ire and some pain. So, I wanted to really discuss those and look at what the deeper meaning is, right? If we look at it on a surface level, we see celebrities and we look at celebrities and how they live, and we're totally tuned in, and we miss the abstract message that's involved in that. Whenever I look at something, I'm always looking to see, how can this benefit me? How can I teach and help humanity? How can I add some value and impact from this circumstance, regardless of how um, how trying or challenging it may be, or it appears. Well, after investigating and really considering those three instances, I came up with three things: defamation, domestic violence, and financial hardships, right? And how they affect the Black family or the Black community at large. So that's what I'll be talking about today: defamation, domestic violence, and financial hardships, because these are things that plague our community in the worst way. So I'm just going to share my screen so that I can present you with some information. Y'all can follow along, because in the midst of it all, people are really missing what's going on, right? I remember the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington, and he was narrating, and he said, it's something always going on. It's just that people tend to miss it. People miss out on it. They don't know what's going on. So what I have here is a document from Legamart, right? And you can pull it up, Legamart, and you just type in defamation, and Legamart, it'll pop up. But the name of this is Defamation: The Real Cost of Being Famous. Now, this specifically deals with famous people because they're so visible and accessible, and they're low-hanging fruit, really. But it actually adds some good value and gives some good information about what defamation really is. So what is defamation? It's communicating to a third party false statements about an individual that damage that individual's reputation. It can be categorized into libel and slander. Libel is a written statement or other visible forms of damaging information about without justification, At the same time, slander is a spoken form of defamatory statements that often leads to the degradation of a person's reputation and sometimes value. Now, when we say value, we mean their financial value. They could lose opportunity. They could lose said jobs. They could lose money. And right here it says, defamation constitutes untrue allegations in the media to rude comments on social media. When a person's reputation is damaged by what was said or written about them, they may bring a lawsuit for defamation to defend themselves. The victim of defamation may claim damages against a person or firm that slandered or published the defamatory statement. The court may also order the defamatory materials to be removed from publication. So we see that, you know, false allegations or even rude comments on social media can be considered defamation, so much to the degree that you can be pulled up on charges legally. Let that be a lesson to all of you guys, brothers and sisters, man, woman, and child or children. Watch what you say on social media. That's another thing. Once you put it out there, it's there. They are even using social media to prosecute people. We saw that with some of the charges, some of the cases here in Atlanta with some of these famous, excuse me, some of these famous rappers, right? So you got to watch what you say because you can be now held legally accountable. Why famous people are targeted with defamation lawsuits. Famous people are targeted with defamation lawsuits more than anybody since they are the most visible in society and have the biggest reputation at stake. One of the best examples is the defamatory case of the famous Jack Sparrow of the Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp, against his ex-wife Amber Heard, right? So, legal consequences of defamation. Defamation is considered a false statement that damages a person's reputation. This is where I'm reading from. A defamed person will likely file a civil lawsuit against the person who made the false statement. A false statement can severely affect people with a high public profile. The law generally states that a person's reputation may be harmed if another person makes a false statement about you that is likely to affect your earnings or your general reputation in society. Your earnings and your general reputation. So it's not even about the money, y'all, right? It's not even about the money. It's about your general reputation. You have no right to slander people. You have no right to speak against people, especially when it's lies. Now, we know it happens, but there can be legal repercussions, right? Now, let's look at the effects. It is important to note that cases are a serious matter. In most cases, damages are awarded to the plaintiff based on the monetary loss they incurred by the false statement. This can range from harm to their reputation to the loss of future job prospects. In addition, lawsuits can harm people who rely on their public image for their livelihood. For example, a false statement about a politician could cause the voting public to boycott their vote for him, or incorrect information about a celebrity musician could lead to declining engagement and ticket sales. In either case, the negative public attention could lead to a seriously unfavorable patch in their career. We're, we're witnessing that with Jonathan Majors. It's happening with him right now as we speak. It can also rip the celebrity's future earnings. A false statement cannot be erased if it is connected to a celebrity's character or attitude. It would hurt him even in the future. His future engagements would always be at stake, especially when a hint about it keeps resurfacing on social media platforms. If the public believes the false statements, they could choose not to support the celebrity. Unfortunately, some people bring lawsuits without gauging the effect it could get on the person or entity they are suing. We see this all the time. This is classic, right? But I think it's important for us to have context of these issues and circumstances that we so readily speak on, that we so readily judge people for, right? Without knowing the true meaning and the definition behind it, because there are real live effects that it has. How can you protect yourself from a defamation suit? Best way to protect yourself from a lawsuit is to be mindful of what you say or publicize. You should refrain from uttering words that do not have a factual basis for the sake of attention. I'm going to say that again. You should refrain from uttering words that do not have a factual basis for the sake of attention. What they're saying in layman's term, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is always lead with logic. Because when you do that, you protect yourself. It's like the lessons. They're blessings that keep you from guessing. So that's defamation, right? That's how defamation works. Now, recently, the defamation that we have all witnessed is that of Will Smith. Him and Dwayne Martin, actually, if we're being technical. one of his assistants, from what I understand, 40 years, Brother Bilal, who recently released a book called Will Smith, the Demonic Circle. He was on Tasha K, who was a social media influencer personality, and he made some allegations about Jada Pinkett and how she was accustomed to a certain size genitalia, right? And then he went on to speak about how he was looking for Will, and Will was lost, and he had the keys to the dressing room, and well, he walked in on him and Dwayne Martin, and they were involved in anal sex, right? And it was pretty intense. Now, that sent waves across the internet because there have been a lot of rumors spread. There have been a lot of contrived, there have been a lot of smear campaigns aimed at the Smiths as of late, right? Um, excuse me. There have been a lot of smear campaigns aimed at the Smiths, not just Will, but Jada as well. And it is my conjecture that Will Smith is akin to Icarus. When you know the story of Icarus against his uncle's wings, he built against his uncle's wishes. Excuse me, he built wings, and he wanted to fly high. And those he built those wings successfully, and he flew so high up to the sun that the heat of the sun burned the wings and caused for him to crash down. Now, Will Smith metaphorically is Icarus, right? He's gained this fame. He built his wings on his rap career and his acting career. He flew so high. He had so much success. And we understand, you know, America loves the underdog. But as soon as you reach the top of the mountain, as soon as you at your apex or your pinnacle, they're ready for you to crash and burn like Icarus. And that's what it amounts to with Will, what I've observed, part of my observation. But so I say that to put that in context to say this is only taken serious because of that previous success, because of these previous seditious type of and slanderous type of accusations and allegations that have been yielded at that family. But yeah, none of it is founded. And like we saw with the defamation, what kind of facts do you have, right? How can you prove your claim? How can you prove that? That's in question. But you've put that out there. Now, I'm going to play what Jada Pinkett said. I'm going to play two videos about this before I move, right? Yeah, two videos. One, Jada recently went on uh, The Breakfast Club and she spoke about it. And then another one's Comedy Hype. I enjoy Comedy Hype because they have real good, they have really good interviews and they have really good discussions on there. If y'all haven't already, you should check out Comedy Hype on YouTube. Comedy Hype is, they keep up with the news you could use, news in the black community. Very insightful, and it's people giving you their perspective, and they base it on fact, or at least the fact that's been put out there, right? So you know what? We're gonna I'm gonna show you where Will Smith responded, right? Where he responded to these accusations.
For Comedy Hype News, I'm John Oppa. On Monday night, Will Smith would once again take over the internet when new allegations about his personal life would take front and center. As you may know, Smith's former friend and assistant, brother by
Forgive me. I'm trying to get it together. Hold
And
on,
this ain't
Houston.
no J-Lo
Look at this.
bashing
Look
because
at this.
she's
Look at this.
crazy, talented. Right. So
Murphy's Law, y'all. We working through it though.
Will and the
Let me
Smith.
start this over and turn it up. I need to turn it up anyway. So here we go.
For Comedy Hype News, I'm John Oppa. On Monday night, Will Smith would once again take over the internet when new allegations about his personal life would take front center. As you may know, Smith's former friend and assistant, Brother Bilal, has kicked off seemingly a press tour to highlight a new book on his time with working with Will and the Smiths. Back in October, Bilal would first sit down with Comedy Hype to discuss his career and knowing Will for nearly 40 years. On Monday, Bilal would once again open up about his time in the Smith camp, but this time he would reveal a bit more details that would cause shock. While speaking with celebrity blogger Tasha K, Bilal would open up about a story in which he was looking for Smith and during his search would find Smith having sex with fellow actor Dwayne Martin.
And then I saw sexual acts that I walked in on.
Who'd you walk in on?
Him and Dwayne Martin. Hollywood is the hurry up and wait game. So I'm running all over the studio. He's not in his dressing room. I go to the cafeteria. I'm like, what? But I see his car there. So I open the door to Dwayne's dressing room, and that's when I see Dwayne and having anal sex with Will. There was a couch, and Will was bent over on the couch, and Dwayne was standing up.
Now it appears that the news would immediately get to the Smith camp as Will Smith has broken his silence about the new allegations. In an exclusive to TMZ, Smith and his team have now released the following statement. This story is completely fabricated, and the claim is unequivocally false. Further, a source close to the situation tells us Will is considering taking legal action following Bilal's remarks. Upon speaking with Bilal back in October, he has mentioned to have the receipts to back up information he plans to have in his new book. Now, for many who have been following this story closely,
Pause. If he has the receipts, he better have them ready, because that's a serious claim and accusation. And like we just read and learned about defamation. If you're not coming from a factual standpoint, yeah, you're totally liable.
this doesn't come as a total shock, as Smith's sexuality has been in question for years. During her press tour while promoting her book Worthy, Will's wife Jada Pinkett Smith would even address rumors about Will while speaking with today's Hoda Kotb. You and Will probably have more rumors about you and talk about you than others. They're in an open marriage, they're swingers, he's gay, she's gay. I mean, a million things were out there. What if anything is true? And did hearing all that stuff bother you? No, that's part of it. I would say that none of that's true. I definitely can understand where there be misunderstandings, but none of it's true. Now, amidst these new allegations, Jada continues to promote her newest book, Worthy, as she was stopped back in New York for her press tour. Upon reviewing her social media activity, she would reshare the following message that
We're gonna pause past that. That's kind of obsolete to the point that I'm trying to build here. But let's go here. And it'll pick up. This is Dwayne Martin and Tisha Campbell. This is what they had to say about the whole circumstance. I thought it was interesting. What Tisha said. Check it out.
we've yet to see a response from Dwayne Martin, Tisha Campbell, and even their children, who also are expected to be affected by these new claims. Back in 2008, Dwayne and Tisha would laugh off rumors on Will and Dwayne being together in an interview with Essence magazine. Tisha would go on to say, "Our theory is that it's really a slave mentality. Whenever the Black community has leaders, potential leaders, or a family unit, we emasculate them. You don't see them do that to Ben Affleck or Matt Damon. They can be friends and be powerful individually."
It's really a slave mentality. Whenever the Black community has leaders or potential leaders or a family unit, we emasculate them. Potential leaders and family unit, really family unit, I would say, because Will's not really a leader. I've never viewed him in the leadership light, unless it was like role model, right? He's been a role model because his image has been clean. Even he won the first rap Grammy, and he won 2 Grammys in rap, one for Summertime and one for Parents Just Don't Understand. But he did it without cursing. Will has prided himself on making lyrics that his grandmother can listen to, right? And so, that makes him somewhat of a role model, right? Because he's trying to at least publicly keep his morals intact, right? And I say publicly because that's all we can see. We can't see anybody's private life, right? Some would argue, well, he could be doing anything privately, and he could, but public, we can only go off of what we know and what we see. That's it.
collectively and do amazing things. Dwayne Martin would respond, "It's a brat pack when white people do it." Let's talk about it more in the comments.
So, yeah, that was Comedy Hype's take on it, and I thought it was super interesting that that's my business line. I thought it was super interesting that Tisha Campbell made light that it's a slave mentality, and that when other ethnic groups do it, people don't have a problem with it, right? So why do they have a problem with it now? Now, here's Jada speaking with Charlamagne about it on the Breakfast Club. Listen to what she says.
In the No Soccer Mom chapter, right? You shoot down every rumor there's ever been about y'all. That y'all are swingers, that y'all were both gay and playing each other's biz, that y'all were sleeping with whomever you choose.
Yeah.
How does it feel in 2023 to still have those same rumors out about people you love, like Will and Dwayne?
I know.
That just came out too recently.
Yeah, and let me just say this. It's ridiculous, right? And it's nonsense. And this is a person that tried a shakedown, a money shakedown that didn't work. We're going to take legal action. Because it's one thing to have your opinion about somebody versus just making up salacious, malicious stories.
Mhm.
So that's actionable. So we're going to roll with that. But yeah,
Say, leave it alone. Don't go no
somebody in the
further.
yeah.
Oh,
No,
Oh,
nobody
oh,
said
oh.
anything. It's so for me, unfortunately, it's part of it. You know what I mean? It's not true. We gonna take care of it, and that's that.
How does
So
Will
there was a money shakedown prior?
Oh yeah,
Hold
it
on.
was a money
Oh, they tried to
shakedown.
extort you before? Like,
Well, it's based around this person's idea that they in some way were doing business around Will's book, and that they spent money or what have you, and that they needed to be compensated. So he already tried to do this money shakedown. Will was willing to give him a certain amount or what have you, and he didn't take it. So this whole situation is based on that.
Oh.
Money shakedown. Business gone sour, right? And that's unfortunate. That is super unfortunate because it doesn't have to be handled this way. We can always settle on the best part, brothers and sisters. We can always figure it out without getting the authorities involved, because once it's elevated to that level, it's really out of our hands at this point. Now it's just almost like a Hail Mary pass, whatever catches, catches. But something I also wanted to speak about, right? Because we're talking about how defamation, domestic violence, and financial hardships affect the Black community. They showed that image of Will Smith in that movie 6 Degrees of Separation. That was a movie where he played a homosexual kid, right? And that's been something of contention. Or I can remember hearing that used as justification as to why Will is probably a homosexual or same-sex loving man or bisexual man, right? But what about Leon when he played Little Richard? What about Michael Williams, rest his soul, when he played Omar in The Wire, right? There have been so many, so many, or even J-Lo, right? When she was in a movie, the one with Ben Affleck, that's a part of people's artwork, right? Or when comedians put on dresses, not that I support that or advocate for any of it, but I also understand that doesn't mean that their sexual orientation is akin to that of what they portray on screen, right? That's not a factual basis to call someone something. And again, this is less about the celebrity and more about what defamation is and how it affects us and what the implications are and what the potential consequences are, right? Uh, within our Black community, within our community. So, um, yeah, that is something that is super duper harsh, and it gets crazy because this adds to an already firestorm of attacks to Will Smith. And something I want y'all to think about, right? Billy Porter, RuPaul, Tevin Campbell, Luther Vandross, Billy Preston. What do all of these brothers have in common? They were all same-sex loving homosexual men that we advocated and supported. James Baldwin, Langston Hughes. No one cares, right? We supported them, right? What makes them different from Will? Right? They didn't have the success that Will had. And that can be argued and debated, right? Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, that could absolutely, I retract, that could be debated about the level of success and fame that they attained. But my point is, we've had brothers and sisters who have been considered homosexual or same sex loving, and we support them just the same, right? We don't knock our brothers for what they are into. At least those of us who are civilized don't. Now, some people will always, there's a percentage of the people that will all, and a high percentage that will always be, you know, of the opinion that their stars or their celebrities have to fit within a box. But, nah, I respect you for your craft and I respect your persona. I have no idea about the person that you are. But listen, financial moves. One thing I understand is when we see celebrities, when we have seen celebrities whom they chime in on, typically you look at their financial moves and you say, okay, what's going on? Are they trying to do something that could really be a power move? Could they be trying to construct an entity in the mainstream that could liberate the masses of the people of their people, i.e., Bill buying NBC, i.e., Michael having ownership in Sony and a lot of the catalog to different genres like country music and these different artists like the Beatles, right? Um, Allegedly, R. Kelly was trying to buy his masters, and that's when all of these cases came rolling back in because the industry was well aware who R. Kelly, or if he had any issues, they knew about it. So when you start to see this smear campaign begin and this vilification, typically is it meaning that, is it signaling something else? That's how my mind works. So yeah. But yeah, we have to really, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we have to really make sure that online that we're making truthful and non-salacious and non-vicious and non-malicious statements, because as we've seen, as it's defined, this can cause much, much harm to not only the person who we are alleging this against, but to ourselves if it's indeed fictional and not factual or not fact-based. So next is we'll talk about Keke Palmer and Darius Jackson. I wanted to really emphasize them. Well, I wanted to use them to emphasize domestic violence, right? So again, some numbers I want to share with you guys so that y'all can see a couple things. So we're gonna look at domestic violence. We'll have a nice little look at it and see what's going on in the Black community. And I know overwhelmingly, I'll tell you that Black women suffer from it, and that's a problem, right? That's a huge problem. A layered look at domestic violence in the Black community. And this is what it says. It's exhausting being a Black woman. The Indiana State Rep says, Vanessa Summer. But it's really exhausting being a Black woman. It's exhausting being a woman. It's really exhausting being a Black woman. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, more than 40% of Black women have experienced intimate partner physical violence. Intimate partner physical. sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking in their lifetimes. And more than half of Black adult female homicides are related to intimate partner violence. That's a problem. That means that we have to do a better job of protecting sisters. We have to do a better job in checking in, doing wellness checks, and sisters have to be a little bit more vigilant due to these statistics, right? A little bit more self-preservation. At Coburn Place, 65% of our clients in 2020 identified as Black and female. And this is true at many domestic violence service organizations nationwide. Black women and men experience intimate partner abuse at a disproportionately high rate. But why? First of all, lack of opportunities along with financial barriers leads to domestic violence. In other words, the stress and strain that comes along with not being able to provide, it causes for us to take it out and project that frustration out on the very ones that we love, and that's the person that we're intimate with, and that's sad. Cicely Johnson, Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Domestic Violence Network, agrees it's a systemic issue because of the history, because of the 400-year gap and 400 years of being left at the starting line, while other groups have moved forward with ease that holds us back. She says that's the root cause. It's always good to deal with root knowledge, brothers and sisters, because when you deal with root, it eliminates all the division and uh, the branch critique, and um, and the branch chastisement. In other words, you're this, I'm that, you're this. No, we have to look beneath the surface and look at the root, because once we find out what the root is, we'll find out that it's the source and energy of all everything, not just, you know, this over here, that over there. It's being fueled by the same thing, right? Just like the universe is being fueled by the same thing, right? Um, so I'm gonna go down. The root cause is a combination of things we're not given. We're just given opportunities in education that generally would be made available to other populations, specifically white populations. And it's socioeconomics. Typically, the higher you are in that socioeconomic strata, the greater access you have to education and resource where you can get some of this information, where you can receive services. Moving on down, it goes to talk about things like Black women don't necessarily want to turn in an abusive partner into law enforcement. I've been told personally by a survivor they can't get help because they don't want their partner to become a statistic. You know, I've heard situations and conversations where people talk about what should happen, what it should be reported when it happens. There should be a statute of limitation, and that's nuanced. And I understand that yes, it should be reported. You're more likely to be taken serious by the masses if it's reported right away. But with anything, if things linger, there will always be a question as to why. But also on the other side of that coin, as we see, people don't want their loved ones. They love these people and they don't want them to become a statistic, especially if it's a Black woman. She understands once the Black man gets caught in that web that is the judicial system, he's liable to be stuck there for his life in some way, shape, or form. He might not get that much jail time, but he has that felony charge on his record. He has that jacket that would prohibit him from efficiently taking care of her and their family, their would be or their said family. So it's nuanced, brothers and sisters. We just have to remember that when we're dealing with one another, right? We know that African American men are more apt to the criminal justice system, and we don't want to send them, even if they shot us in the head, says Summers. We don't trust the police because we don't want to get our man in trouble, but there has to be a way to break the cycle. Absolutely. Um, what else? What else? Where does it go? I wanted to show y'all. I wanted to read something. Uh, while Task Force is a domestic violence focused organization, it wants to also address many issues that overlap with it. Economics is often a factor of domestic violence. So, how do we get these Black women rising up in the ranks so they can leave a violent relationship potentially, right? Understand their worth and support their family without having to be in an abusive situation. Uh, I had seen something that I wanted to point out. It talks about the church. Um, I thought in this one it talked about how men as well, men suffer from it as well, right? Men also suffer from this. Uh, so it's a balanced thing. It's not just man and woman. Absolutely, women are overwhelmingly uh, suffering more than men, but men also suffer. But yeah, systems work against the black community, and the community has lost, or more like never had, faith in those systems, leading to a reluctance to report. So a lot of times we don't even trust these authorities that we're supposed to be reporting to, right? That's a cause. You know, we're like, man, they're not going to do anything, and if they do something, it's probably going to be unjust. So that those are issues. Economics, like it expounded on, not wanting to uh, put our spouse or the person that's initiating that into the fire, and also a lack of trust or lack of faith in the system that's supposed to be absolutely serving us and helping us. These are all issues that we have to take into account, brothers and sisters, when we hear things about why she stayed or why he, allowed that, right? Things like that. Now, there are more. There are more things. I got a little bit more. I got a lot more where that came from, about boy. um, Not this one. I want to show this too, right? Because the other one was it was so heavy on the female, right? So I just want to show this on how it affects the male. I want to just give a little bit of context and a little bit of exposure. And this, I love it when these articles are recent. Not to say that they're null and void when their years pass, but when they're recent, that says that, okay, somebody else was interested and investigated. So, 3 alarming facts about male victims of domestic violence. This isn't exactly a news flash, but men can be victims of domestic violence too. This is especially true when it's an intimate partner violence. IPV is a form of domestic violence that entails abuse or aggressive in a romantic relationship with a current or past spouse. It also occurs with someone you happen to be dating. Um, it encompasses physical and sexual violence, yet it also includes emotional and psychological aggression. IPV occurs when your spouse embarrasses, shames, or puts you down. It also happens when a spouse or ex threatens to take away the kids or destroys your property. You may also be a victim of IPV if an ex or current partner stalks you in real life or online. I thought that was, when I saw that, I thought that was important because obviously, you know, there are going to be some physical forms of IPV against men by women, but a lot of it is psychological, it's emotional, and it can be, like you said, threatening to be judicial or legal, in that I will prohibit you, I will stop you from seeing your kids. Abuse of black men by an intimate partner is prevalent. Make no mistake, black women are victimized the most by IPV, and it is often at the hands of black men. That's first and foremost. What's more, the majority of black female homicides are committed by an intimate partner. Yet every year, a considerable number of black males are also victims of IPV. According to the CDC, 40% of black men will also experience physical violence, sexual assault, or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime, according to the data compiled by the CDC. So men are suffering as well. And again, this is just to show that balance and equality, because a lot of times I know in today's society, it's become such a neoliberal, womanist, black feminist world that oftentimes the voices that's heard the loudest is that of the woman. There's not a lot of voices that are equivalent or that want to show the equality for the man and the woman, and how that shapes the family and the community and the child ultimately, right? An overwhelming number of black men experience psychological aggression. According to the data cited by the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 56.1% of black men have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Psychological aggression entails name calling and humiliation. It also appears as coercive control, where a partner may try to keep you from seeing your friends. They may also threaten to hurt you or themselves to keep you from leaving. Now, in a lot of circles that I've been in, you know, or I've discussed things, it's like, man, you have to really start with the I, right? I self Lord and master. You have to master self. You have to do the work necessary to get yourself out of these things. And oftentimes, you know, for the brothers, we often say, well, women should have not stayed. Why didn't she, you know, get out of there? She was being whooped. I think I just saw Slim Thug. He just made a vlog where he said, in respect to the brother, he said, man, you know, I don't think that they should be taken serious. There should be no recourse when they come out years and years and years. And I understand his perspective and where he's coming from. On the flip side, though, uh, with the man, hey, we have to pull ourselves up. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? If we're dealing in equality, hey, the man has to pull himself up. He has to remove himself as well. Now, there are issues just like there are issues for the sisters. So you see what I'm saying, brothers and sisters? We have to take these things into account before we just jump out there and not extend some proper handling of our people. But yeah, we have to do the work, and we have to be strong enough to move away from that harms us, and that doesn't benefit us in the way that we believe, or that we thought it would serve, especially when it's becoming somewhat of an abusive thing. And then it goes down. I won't go through all of them. An overwhelming number of black men experience psychological aggression when it comes to sexual violence. Men are victimized by men and women. 87% of male victims of rape reported that another male was the perpetrator. CDC defines rape as any completed or unwarranted attempt at penetration, yet known as made to penetrate. Um, and also rape when a man is coerced into penetrating someone without consent or through the use of physical force. 79% of males in MTP cases, made to penetrate cases, stated that the perpetrator was female. Wow. An overwhelming majority of male IPV victims named females as the perpetrators. 97% of men who experienced rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner reported only female perpetrators. About 82% of males who were coerced in the sex reported only female perpetrators, according to the CDC. Um, that's something else. So we see where it happens on both sides, right? This is an issue that plagues us all. Now, when we consider Keke Palmer, something happened. I remember months ago hearing about her wearing a dress that he perceived as being a little bit lewd, right? And she was also dancing on Usher Raymond. Now, at that point, I thought, well, it's in her lane of work. It's in her line of work. She's a celebrity. Celebrities wear these things. Do I agree with that? Not. No. I would hope that my wife would always keep her respect for herself, but also, if nothing else, the respect for our family and how she represents it in mind when she steps outside and projects who she is, because she is truly a reflection of my son. That's my wisdom. So she reflects the light off of me, right? We're intertwined. So, but again, going back on what I'm saying, she's a celebrity, and I understand that that's the nature of that industry. Now, he said something about it, and he was attacked for it, right? And I thought that he was a little bit naive to open that up to the public and not think that her being such a darling, that he wouldn't catch the backlash that he caught. You know, I don't think he thought that all the way through. But when this new allegation came up, or this um, new discovery where she has a restraining order filed, what I saw was, is typically what we see. The woman's side is taken like right away, right? She's taken as the victim, not recognizing that yes, that could be it, but there are two sides, and then there's the truth, and they never did. People aren't saying, okay, well, because he claimed she was abusive, and she potentially could have been, right? He'd have to prove that, but we understand there are different forms of abuse, and like I read, they look different for each gender, for each sex, for lack of a better term, male, female, man, woman. It looks a little bit different, but that's harmful. Children who are in homes that suffer abuse. They have a hard time adjusting in school. They have a hard time learning because this dampens their spirit, right? When you're in total chaos 24/7, or when you're home where your peace is supposed to be, when it's cluttered by hostilities, that is going to manifest with you in your spirit when you go out. So, you know, that domestic violence thing is horrible, brothers, sisters. We have to consider the effect that it has on our children and on our family structure as a whole. There's no reason that the black woman should be the woman that has the highest rate of domestic violence. That she's been victimized by domestic violence at the highest rate than all other ethnicities. That's unacceptable. We have to really. What did Tupac say? I think it's time we heal for our women, be real to our women. You know what I mean? I forgot the lyric, but y'all know what I'm talking about. We have to protect these sisters any way that we can, in every way that we can, because there are consequences and repercussions to our actions, right? So yeah. One thing I would like to say though, that I really think that people should take into consideration. Well, again, going back to the defamation, and this really is aligned with domestic violence. Report it ASAP or report it whenever you're strong enough. Either way, I think it's best to report it if you can as soon as possible. But obviously, you want to report it because it's better late than never. But, no one wins when the family feuds. Always keep your family problems. Don't put them out on Front Street for everybody to see, because whether you are a celebrity or just a social media influencer or a personality, whatever you put out there, whatever you say, like it said, libel is written and slander is, something that's said. Whatever you put out there through the written word or through the spoken word, it can now be used against you. It's no longer yours. It belongs to, you know, the uh the online space, the World Wide Web, www, and whatever belongs to the World Wide Web, people will comment on. People will construct and deduct from the situation an opinion, and you have to know that that's coming, especially when you are super visible or even adjacent to a person that's super visible. There will be fallout. So for the good of the black community, for the good of Keke and Darius, hey man, we have to really minimize and see what we can do to cut those statistics about domestic violence down. Last and not least is Mr. Joe Smith. And we will deal with the issue with Joe Smith seems to be financial hardships, right? Joe Smith, if you know that story, Joe Smith's wife, Keisha Chavis, recently uh, went on live and she exposed that Joe Smith was kind of upset because she had an OnlyFans page. Now, he was going off. They've since been on several different shows. And you have to know a little bit something about Joe Smith. Joe Smith's from Virginia. He went to Maryland. He ended up being drafted number 1 in the 1995 NBA draft. He had a 10-year, I believe a 10-year, I want to say a 10-year career. He was decent, right? Uh, he had been married before, and from what I read, his first wife um, sued him and got millions, and then put him on child support. And so Joe kind of, he struggled with that emotionally. He struggled with that. That was a huge loss. Joe also had 4 other babies outside of his marriage. Now I'm saying all that. That's really um, the only reason I'm saying that is to show there's deeper things that Joe is there. He's depressed, and these are some of the things that have him depressed, right? It's a buildup. It's not just him and his wife now and the things that are going on, right? Because that's their business, right? But there's a buildup of issues. Now with Keisha Chavis, she was a musician, and then she went into the world of the adult industry or pornography, and she met Joe, and they got married. Um, and since then, she's had several businesses. She says that Joe has worked for her in the businesses, and that he's been depressed for a long time. So I really wanted to put that out there about the depression, because again, that's Joe's personal business, and hopefully he can work and move through that. But that's just the context. See, when we see things, we don't always see the context, so we don't understand why people are functioning or moving in the way that they're moving. Everybody has a backstory, and when you understand that backstory, that will give you greater understanding, right? As to It'll give you a clear mental picture as to why that person or those people are functioning and navigating through the way they are doing. Because if you just look at it and he's down and depressed, he's looking like a simp. He's looking like this woman has totally broken him. He's looking like this woman has totally emasculated him. And he's looking like, man, this sister's the worst, not realizing that she's been helping Joe. They've been working together as a married couple to try to do the best financially. Uh, but now it just might be at a boiling point to where their circumstance or their financial hardship might be at a level where it's like we're all out. We have to do something. We're in a desperate situation. So desperate situations require uh, desperate actions. And so that's what it is. But when you don't know those backstories, you just judge off of face value, right? Almost like the defamation. You're coming from a place of ignorance that you really don't know about, right? So what I'm gonna do here is I have a video cue, but I'm not gonna show that video just yet. Again, we're gonna get into the literature, and so that we can find out, right? We'll look at, black women being the breadwinners, because I watched there's a brother out there named Kevin Wesley, and he has a show called The Truth Factory. Kevin Wesley, I first was made aware of Kevin Wesley maybe a few years ago. He does breakdowns of different films, different things that relate to black culture. He gives very good esoteric meaning. He'll give, great insight, good abstract knowledge, right? Um, well-spoken brother. You see him, nice looking gentleman, has two wives, right? That's how he really caught my attention, because anytime a brother has two wives in this society, typically people are looking at him like, what the? So when I listened to him, I was like, okay, brother makes some sense. But when he's talking with Joe, he's trying to counsel Joe and his wife Keisha. What she says is it's the economic aspect of it, right? It's the economic portion that Joe hadn't been. His depression has caused him to not be present economically and to not take on his economic responsibilities. And so that can cause a problem. It can cause a huge problem. So I looked up something that really deals with a few things with Joe, right? Um, Females being the breadwinner, or the queens being the breadwinner. I wanted to read that, but I also have a video because Joe uh, he's not doing well at all financially. And so that brings the bigger issue of professional athletes' life after whatever game, and a large percentage of those brothers become poor or go right back into the circumstance that they came from. So we'll read an article. I have some information about that. But this is an article. I want to share this article. It's called Black Women Are More Likely to Be Breadwinners, and That's Not a Bad Thing. So this is Word in Black, which is a black publication you guys can find. And the category, as you can see, is finance, right? Black women are more likely to be breadwinners. It's not a bad thing. Access to higher education has helped married Black women become breadwinners. Experts say it can help uplift the Black family. This was written in April 28th of 2023. So this is recent. In 72, men were the primary or sole breadwinners in 85% of opposite sex marriages. 50 years later, things have changed drastically. Today, according to new research from the Pew Research Center, husbands are the sole or primary breadwinners in 55% of marriages. The change over several decades can be attributed to a variety of factors. For example, women are pursuing higher education, at higher rates and choosing to have fewer children or none at all. On the other hand, Pew found 29% of all marriages are egalitarian, meaning a couple's earnings are more equal. Each person makes between 40% to 60% of the joint income, right? And 16% of marriages have wives as the main source of income. These numbers are not the same for married black women. Pew found in 1 in 4 black wives out earn their husband. And according to Pew survey and analysis of existing government data, black women are more likely than any other ethnic group to be in marriages where they're the breadwinner or in an egalitarian marriage. A marriage is where the wife is black, the husband is the main source of income 40% of the time. The wife is the main source in 26% of marriages and 34% egalitarian. Education propels women into making more money. 2021 academic year of all 206 out of 526 black college graduates earning bachelor's degrees, black women earned 134,435, about 65%. Black men earned 72,092, about 35%, according to the National Center of Education Statistics. Man, it seems like higher education has always been saturated with sisters. Sisters just take to it, man, and move. If you look around pretty much any college campus, a large percentage of African American students there are women. In addition to this, black men are disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system. This has long-term effects on black men's mental health and income. Diane M. Stewart, professor of religion and African American studies at Emory University, agrees. Stewart is the author of Black Women, Black Love, America's War on African American Marriage. I'm going to have to read that. The numbers are not matching up for black women to have partners within their social and economic range. It's fairly likely that millions of black women with college degrees are marrying black men who have either a high school diploma or an associate degree. Therefore, those black women might be in skilled labor jobs or professional positions. They will likely make more money than the men they're marrying. This reminds me of Sister Shahrazad Ali. People got mad at Sister when she said black women are going to have to begin to settle for less, right? And selling for less doesn't mean that brothers are off the hook, not at all. But it means that when you look at these numbers, when you look at these percentages, brothers aren't going to make that type of money that sisters are expecting them to make. And then when the sisters go for those men, this is where the Godfather Kevin Samuels comes in. When women go for those men, understand that they come with a mentality a lot of times. Not that it's right, but when you have options like that, then you become a number in those options, right? And that might not be what you are looking for, or it might, but I'm just stating the facts on these circumstances. Being the breadwinner only matters if you make it matter. In Skipper's perspective, despite the financial role women play, marriage can be financially beneficial for the black community. It's a tool for getting out of poverty, he says, more than the education or changing neighborhoods. A study on reasons for divorce named financial problems as one of the top contributors to marital issues and divorce. And patriarchal structures within unions can contribute to this as well if couple embraces the ideals that come with it, Stewart says. If this is what they're embracing, they will notice the dissonance between the ideal and what can be pragmatically worked out, Stewart says. I would think this has to cause some sort of conflict, difficulty, or stress. One thing Skipper noticed, one thing Skipper noticed in his research of black marriages is their varying financial situations. He found that what matters for married couples is how money is managed in a relationship, not how much each person makes. So it's how the money is managed. And for it to be managed properly, brothers and sisters, there has to be open communication. There has to be a clear goal. And there also has to be some work done together, right? One person can't do it alone either way, whether that's you making the money or you managing the money. It has to be a team effort, else it's not going to work. I don't think there really should be an issue here, Skipper says. Let's remove those stereotypical role expectations and really view this as a partnership. yeah, I just wanted to. I think that's super duper relevant to financial hardships in the relationship because things can happen, and if you guys aren't on the same page, if y'all not working as a team, man, it can have dire consequences for the family. And again, this is how it affects the black family. You know how those financial hardships, what it does. Now, one more one more article that I thought was super duper insightful before I show y'all the video of Mr. Joe Smith and his wife is it's an article I found, ALM Think Advisor, right, by Jane Woolman Rusoff. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. And it's called Why So Many NFL and NBA Players Go Broke, right? So it says the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. ABC's Worldwide Sports beamed those dramatic accounts for nearly 4 decades. What they didn't feature was the misery of bankruptcy and the sting of other financial woes. That's what 78% of National Football League players reportedly suffer within 2 years of retirement. Further, about 60% of National Basketball Association players reportedly go broke within 5 years of leaving the court. Today, financial advisors specializing in serving pro athletes are trying to prevent such misfortune. Gerald Graves, executive managing director, West Coast from Boston Private Wealth, is one of them. In an interview with Think Advisor, he describes helping young NFL and NBA players budget their money, recognize outrageous investment pitches, and learn how to best respond to relatives looking for handouts, if not ongoing financial support. So, in the interview, Graves emphasized the need to educate and train them about budgeting, spending, agents' fees, and taxes. We always see where, at least we see actors getting locked up for taxes. That's a huge thing. And entertainers too, right? Will Smith, I'm reading his book, Will, and he talks about how he was 3 million behind in taxes. So that taxes is heavy. People have to really keep up with it. Um, but I wanted to highlight this. Why do pro athletes need a financial advisor with expertise working with this client niche? The really talented athlete, the really talented athletes that come out of school will make a life's income in just a few years. But nobody comes out of school ready for making real world financial decisions and tough choices. So the need for guidance and advice is substantial because the sudden wealth can create challenges most people don't have. 78% of NFL players reportedly go bankrupt or severely stressed financially within 2 years after retirement, and about 60% of basketball players are cleaned out within 5 years of leaving the NBA. Do these athletes just blow through their money? It's a little more complicated than they just overspent. It could be a bad investment advice from people they trusted. Another big element is that one of the first things a lot of athletes do is start taking care of family and friends. Divorce is a big impact too. That's why I wanted to point out to about Joe Smith about earlier in his life, not to put him out there, but just to put in the context. This is a brother who's had hardships financially, because here it is, a financial advisor is saying that one of the hardships uh, that they can experience is divorce. Are young athletes hip to what has unfortunately happened financially to many sports stars in the past? More and more, more and more are aware of these really ugly statistics. I think there's a lot more awareness around potentially being taken advantage of. So they tend to be a lot more cautious. But sometimes it's very hard to succumb. It's very hard not to succumb to the temptations. What sorts of temptations? High profile athletes are constantly being asked to invest in things, whether it's private equity, restaurants, who knows what. Charities are also very aggressive. So it's really important to educate them on how to handle this fire hose of attention and how to have conversations with their family about their wealth. Yeah. So do you educate them about the quirks of athlete compensation plans? what is your overarching goal as an advisor to pro athletes? It's important to educate them to their own wealth and be responsible for it. It's teaching them to be good financial stewards of their income and helping them achieve their goals through financial plans and sound investment strategies. For a young person that gets a big salary right off the bat and who can potentially retire before the age of 30, there's a whole lifetime of planning to do, which is a hard thing. Now, I just wanted to highlight that because what it says is, you know, Joe is not an anomaly. He's actually uh, the norm, right? We're always shown people like Magic Johnson, how he's just touched billionaire status. Michael Jordan, how he touched it a few years ago. LeBron James, how he's a billionaire. We look at, I don't know who else is a billionaire. I don't know if Derek Jeter's a billionaire, but nonetheless, we're shown these images, these people, but very rarely are we shown the Allen Iversons, the guys who struggle, the Antoine Walkers. That's more or less the norm. That's the reality of it. Now, why is that important to this discussion as far as financial literacy and or financial hardships and how it affects the Black community? Well, it affects us because, as we saw with the numbers of women being the breadwinner, if there is not an understanding, if there's not a team effort between man and woman, then things that when they get out of hand, they can wreak havoc on a relationship. Like the article said, it's not about how much you make, it's about how it's managed. So obviously, I'm assuming that Joe's money wasn't managed well, and he probably didn't have the financial literacy to even know to manage it well. Because how do I know that? Because in our community, we're not taught financial literacy, right? We're not taught these things. That's something that we should be teaching our children. Different ethnicities. I'll take the Jewish community. They have a Saturday school where they learn different things that are akin to them expanding, to the young people pushing forward the legacy. And financial literacy is absolutely one of those things. That's something that we have to do. We have to teach our kids every Saturday. Where is it? Every Saturday? It might not be over here. It is. Well, it's over there. I have cards for the children that they go over, to make them familiar. Repetition is the mother of learning. So the more that they do it, the better that they get, the more of an understanding they have. But we don't come in, is what I'm saying, with being programmed with financial literacy or to build wealth. Other ethnicities are arming their communities so that when they do get the resources, when they do get the money, they're not squandering away. They're not being taken in by the bluff. I was watching Gilbert Arenas and Kenyon Martin talk about what they did with their first checks, and they said exactly what this article said. They said, man, I had to take care of my family because when I made it, we made it. But when you look at other communities, it's not like that. They don't have to put the money backwards. They put the money forward so that they can advance the people. We put the money backwards. And a part of that is because we don't have the knowledge. We don't have the wisdom and the understanding about wealth and about what we should do and how do we attain it. Right. And I'm not a guru. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still taking it piece by piecemeal. Right. I'm still doing what I can so that at least my children won't have to, look around in the dark. They'll have knowledge. They'll have vision. So, yeah, we see where 60% of NBA athletes go broke, and they don't really talk about that. But they expect you to know. They expect you to be versed in it, and they expect you to have an understanding of it. And you should, because it's not up to the mainstream. It's up to us. It's up to our community to come together, to hold free trainings, to get our children involved in financial literacy programs. I always see when you go, brothers and sisters, when you drive out into these neighborhoods, I want you to look and see how many basketball goals, how many soccer nets are all within the communities. And you ask yourself, I wonder, are there just as many wealth building mechanisms in the home? Are they teaching the kids the way? Are they teaching the kids about financial literacy the way they're teaching them about basketball, about sports and athletics and things of that nature? Which I'm not knocking, because that can be an avenue to gain the capital so that you can accrue wealth. But we see, if you don't have the knowledge and wisdom and understanding, it can have dire consequences on your married life and also your family life, and that's what we do not want. Let me share this video. This is David Wesley in the middle of the counseling session, and this is what when I saw it, I thought, man, that's rough for Joe. That's really rough. That is really, really rough. Now, I'm only showing you the last clip, right? I'm only showing you how, how it ended, how the clip ended, and how what has come to a head, how this financial situation or circumstance, how it is manifested in the worst way. And this is exactly what we don't want and don't need in the community, right? And you can look at the body language, you can look at the energies and tell that they are, at a place where they need some real help. They need some therapy. And I'm not sure if David Wesley is I'm not sure if he's what do you say? If he's a certified therapist. I don't know. I said David Wesley. I meant Kevin Wesley. I don't know if Kevin Wesley is a certified therapist or not, but I know that they do need, from the looks of their body language, from hearing them speak about what's going on in their marriage and in their family. I wish nothing for the best, and I wish this can be an example of us to tighten up our financial literacy, tighten up our wealth building strategies with our spouses and our loved ones, because, we want to thrive. We don't want to just survive, and we definitely don't want to, be under the poverty line or under a place where we're not surviving. So y'all check it out.
Has to publicly deal with it. When he tried to talk to you about it, this conversation should have been in the home, but you went public. Why? Why did you say, I want to reveal to the whole world, not just him being upset and angry? He's a 6'10" black man. So I'm not only just going to show him being angry, I want the world to know about our issue. And now when everyone wants to know about it, it's like you're upset about it. You don't want to talk about it, but you brought this to the world because at that moment you felt like you were right in what you did. Now the world's saying you're wrong, and it's not looking like you thought it would look. They're actually more so understanding what Joe's going through.
Well, then someone needs to help him then. Shaq, can you get a Papa John's?
Wow. Okay. Kids, that was wrong. Joe. Yeah, I'm out, y'all. Joe. I'm out, y'all.
What was wrong about that?
All right. So if you're saying it helps you come from anybody outside of your husband, that is saying that you don't trust him. It's saying that you don't believe in him anymore. So he's your provider. If you trust him in that, and when he's not the provider, you as the wife is his helpmeet. So when he's not the provider, you help to. He hunts, you have the garden. When he can't hunt, he gets injured. Y'all have the garden, right?
Right.
Of course, it ain't as plentiful just to eat off the garden.
He's always injured, Kevin.
But
I think
if that's still the man you
done with
married.
this
So if you
also.
want, that's still the man you married.
Kevin, I think you should probably go find your friend and talk to him, because he needs counseling. He needs to become the man that you are.
You both need that,
because you have several wives that you are maintaining and holding down.
But if I couldn't talk to them, we wouldn't be able to have a happy relationship.
There's a respect that you earned from them because you've been holding them down. You showed them the man that you are.
Yes, ma'am.
I've not seen that yet.
Well, I certainly do want to talk to him about it. But
let's
I'm just
get
saying,
him in a position to where he can be the man that I can sit down and be like, I can trust you. You can really take care of me. Because if I had $1 for every time he said I got you, we'd be okay.
Okay, so I'll do this, kids. Hang on, don't you leave too. Okay, let's hold on. All right.
yeah, so they seem to be in a rough spot, to say the least. And like we've seen, it's not about how much is made, it's about how it's managed, right? And we also understand that just because professional athletes may have once made millions of dollars, that doesn't mean that they retain or maintain that millions of dollars. Um, I understand, sister, where she's coming from. I would, man, it's always tough when you take it public, though. And that's, I wanted to show that because he was saying, you're frustrated, but you took this public. Why did you make it public? When it's made public, again, like Darius Jackson and Keke Palmer, now everybody has an opinion. Now this belongs to everybody online that reads it. We have to keep our dirty laundry in house. Nobody wins when the family feuds. And we have to understand the socioeconomic landscape that we're out here dealing with, because it's not one that's cut and dry. It is very complex. And we have to be understanding if we are to move forward, right? Not to let the man off the hook, certainly not to let the man off the hook. Uh, but we have to be compassionate with one another and continue to move in that space. Listen, I appreciate y'all, man. I always appreciate y'all coming through. Again, click the link in my bio on my page. You can go to my store. I have some goods there. Y'all, you know, we have some things coming up, some merchandise. Um, spread the word, spread the word, you know, like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe and comment, because if you comment, I'm going to get back with you. That's one thing about YouTube is when you comment, we can see it. I don't turn the comments off, and I like to hear you guys and see you guys' perspective on what I've just showed you. What do you think? You know, do you agree with the case that I laid out for defamation, domestic violence, and financial hardships in the Black community, or do you have another perspective? Do you see it another way? Whichever way you see it, I would love to hear it, because I love to interact and engage with you guys. So, with that being said, listen, what I'm going to do is sign off of here. And like I always say, when I sign off after every show, may we meet again in the light of understanding. Hey, peace and love, y'all. And don't, like I said, don't eat too much turkey, because y'all what you eat. Say no to drugs and yes to love. Peace, y'all.